Date point. 4th year, 8th month, 2nd week, 1st day, AV. Fall for colony, Simbrine, the far reaches. Ava Rios. Hey, Ava. Ava had volunteered to help with the cooking, and was quietly growing very sick indeed of slicing the burger buns by the time that Haley, Sarah's mum, tapped her on the shoulder. Hi, Haley, how are you? She trailed off, noticing who was standing a little ways behind Haley, alongside her huge husband, Mark. Fortunately, Haley took it for a straightforward, how are you? Oh, we're great. Having a great time. I was just... Do you think you could do us a favour? She asked. What favour? Ava asked. Could the kids sleep round your place tonight? We're having a guest over. Floating in a kind of stunned emptiness as she processed the implications of that request, Ava heard her mouth say, Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can do that for you. You're the best, Haley exclaimed, and gave her a kiss on the cheek. She left, in the company of her husband and one of the most famous women in the world. Just before the three of them vanished into the dark, Ava could have sworn she saw the two women kiss. She excused herself from burger bun duty and squeezed through the crowd until she found Adam, who was hanging out with his dad. You won't believe who I just saw going home with Haley and Mark, she began. Date point. 4th year, 8th month, 2nd week, 2nd day, AV. Series base, Saul. Drew Cavendish. Adele Park was not, in Drew's opinion, a pretty woman. The features inherited from her Korean father contrasted a little too strangely with those of her Czech mother for that word to apply, but she used them well, combining them with her tailor suit and businesslike haircut to present the absolute picture of poised corporate refinement. Seeing her so distressed was a new and appalling experience. You of all people? She demanded, looking him in the eye after watching the video. Drew could swear he saw a tear there. No, he said firmly, not me. I don't remember doing it, and more to the point, I wouldn't do it. Jim Riordan, the LLC security director, didn't look convinced. I've had this looked at by experts back on Earth, he said, mild and unflappable as ever. There's no digital artifacts, no sign of any editing, nothing. According to them, this is what the cameras really saw, and you're going to tell us it wasn't you? Cav, I wouldn't, Drew M piped up. He'd been the first person that Cavendish had gone to, and been trusted immediately. Every man has his price, Drew, Riordan said. Well, God himself couldn't afford mine, Cavendish snapped. Endanger one of my team? Never. He glared at them both. Why do you think I came to you with this? I know what it means. It means I'm getting fined and probably charged and imprisoned. But if some bastard is somehow using me to endanger my crew, I won't. Not by my hands. Using you? That's your excuse? That's the best you can come up with? Adele asked, clearly reaching the end of her own patience. What's it going to be, Mr. Kadevish? Alien mind control rays? Voodoo? Nanotechnology in the coffee machine? Drew met her fierce gaze with a quiet firmness of his own. Nothing short of that would cause me to harm on my crew, Adele. And if I have to go to prison to rob whoever's doing this with their puppet, I bloody well will. Nobody seemed to quite know how to react to that. Drew was still glaring at each of them in turn, when there was a knock on the door. It turned out to be one of Riordan's security staff. Boss, Miss Park, I've got one of the Mitsubishi guys here. Hakeki Togo. He says he wants to confess to sabotaging the base. He what? Riordan frowned at his man, caught off guard. He says he's got CCTV footage proving it was him. Date point. 4th year, 8th month, 2nd week, 2nd day, AV. Fall for colony, Simbrine, the far reaches. Guillotine. The shortest route from the ET quarter to the Face Centre passed along the road outside Falkworth School, which placed Guillotine in a unique position to be the first Gauian to witness a schoolyard fight. He retreated as the door slammed open and expelled one of the young colonists, the skinny female who always carried a camera, into the street. She narrowly missed barging him aside as she ran across the road and out of sight, face a bright red and water streaming from her eyes. Guillotine was still puzzling over this extraordinary sight when the door exploded open again and two young human males came spinning through, grappling with each other. They were doing more in the way of pulling at each other's clothing and shouting than actually hurting each other, but the physicality of it was still alarming. The larger one, and the darker, with a skin tone similar to that of the girl Ava had spoken to the day before, pulled back from the fight long enough to lash out with one fist, and Guillotine issued a frightened alarm chirrup. The blow cracked into the other boy's face with all that trademark Deathworlder force, leaving the Gauian briefly convinced he had just witnessed a murder. But of course humans were made of impossibly sturdy stuff, And the struck boy just got angrier and charged into the larger boy's torso, shoulders first, carrying him halfway across the street before they wound up clawing, wrestling and headbutting in the middle of the road. Cubs and clan brothers fought too, of course. Garrison himself had been part of a vicious spat when he was little that had left him with a scar on his tail, and the other cub with a chunk missing from his ear. But this didn't look like a scuffle between Gowyan males. This was a battle. A war. It broke up as abruptly as it had burst onto the street when, a universal constant, the adults arrived. Adam Miguel Angel Ares! The change was immediate. The bigger kids staggered upright, muttering, "Oh shit." Only proximity allowed Garrison to hear one of the female cubs, children, mutter, "Ooh, his full name," to her friend. If Garrison was any judge by now, then from the similarities in size, skin tone and facial features, the figure limping along the road was the older boy's sire, which was a very different relationship among humans than it was in Gao. In any case, the chastised body language of a cub about to receive a stern telling off seemed to be practically shared between humanity and his own species, if you ignore the immobile ears. He was surprised when the two started to converse in a language that was completely unfamiliar to him, a rapid, action one that sounded like fire and passion in the older man's mouth. Of course, they don't have a unified language, do they? He thought. He had grown so used to everybody in the colony speaking English, that even the unfamiliar terms in the books of Buddhism that had occupied him half the night had seemed like they must belong to that tongue. He watched the incandescent exchange for a few minutes before the two boys looked at each other. Adam held out a fist, which the other tapped with his own. "Good enough," the older Ares begrudged. He looked to the younger boy, whose eye was swelling and bruising badly. "Get that eye seen. Vamos." The other boy nodded and ran. Fled, even. Garrison studied Adam's body language, thinking hard. Embarrassment, chastisement, and apprehension, yes, but also defiance? As if he felt that he was in the right? Finally, the older man softened. "Come here." They hugged. Garrison gave up. There were books waiting to be read, and he was eager to try this meditation they kept writing about. The mystery of human interrelationships would probably prove to be a deeper and more difficult one than the mystery of transcendental enlightenment. Date point: 4th year, 8th month, 2nd week, 2nd day, AV. Series base, Sol. Drew Cavendish. Adele's office was becoming crowded. Drew felt quietly proud of himself for opening the floodgates. His example had given Haikishi the confidence to come forward. Behind him had come Ben Evans, one of the Ordron technicians. Behind him, 3 more. Each brought with them video proof that it was them who had performed somatic sabotage, which had very nearly ended in disaster. All stood defiantly, insisting they had no memory of doing so, and protesting their innocence. If they were anything like him, Drew knew they were all feeling used and violated. Riordan, meanwhile, had shuttled off towards Earth in a hurry, apparently aiming to get in touch with some old contacts, leaving Adele to deal with the fact that many, and it was beginning to look like all of her senior staff, had documentary evidence of their own culpability. There was something nagging Drew's attention, though, now that his innocence was fairly well proven. Something he couldn't quite put his finger on. His train of thought missed its station, and hurtled on along the track, without him, as Adele raised her voice to be heard over the mob that was trying to squeeze in. Fine, no more. We'll conduct this in a meeting room in 20 minutes. She got no further. There was no warning, no hint that something might be amiss. Mid-sentence, pretty much everyone in the room was simultaneously floored by a bolt of the most terrible pain, right between the ears. Drew staggered, felt Drew grab him, and tried to hold him upright. As if hearing it through the worst popped ears in history, he vaguely heard, Cavo! Oh, fucking hell, what's going on? He staggered, gripped the table, felt the pain lurch in his stomach and frightened to dislodge his breakfast, gritting his teeth against the agony that was pushing at his vocal cords, that was ripping its way out of the others as screams and moans and prayers. And behind it all, the noise. Voices, he croaked. More than he could comprehend. Billions, trillions, all talking at once, shouting at once, thinking and moaning and laughing and singing and living at once, behind his eyes, between his ears, surging, roaring, rising into something. Something. He lost himself in the tide, and for a little while Drew Cavendish ceased to exist. He slumped to the floor, as every one of those affected, Adele, Aikishi, Evans, everyone, likewise passed out. Drew Martin and a handful of shocked security guards exchanged terrified glances, not knowing what to do or how to even begin figuring it out. And then, The unconscious bodies of their friends and colleagues spoke, in perfect mechanical unison. 1. Date point. 4th year, 8th month, 2nd week, 2nd day, AV. Fall for colony, Simbrine, the far reaches. Riley Jackson. Captain Jackson, may I have a minute of your time, please? Riley obligingly stood aside as the rest of the officers fired out of Power's office. When they were alone, Power sat back and gave her a level stare. Far be it for me to tell you your business, Jackson, he said mildly. But where I'm from, I'm an officer of your notoriety being the subject of town gossip about the way she went home with a married couple last night is called bring the service into disrepute. Riley cleared her throat. Ah, that, got around, did it? It's a small town, Powell said dryly. Fortunately for you, it's also a liberal one. I think most of them are envious rather than scandalized. May I sit down? Riley asked. Please do. Riley settled into the seat, glad to reduce the formality of the discussion a bit. So, what's your request, Powell? He grimaced, clearly feeling the awkward position he found himself in. Look, as peers, one officer to another, you do whatever you need to unwind after a nop, I get it. Done it myself. I'm just asking, again, one officer to another, to think about how, fairly or not, your actions reflect on my unit. We've got a good informal relationship going with Falford civilians, and I'd like to keep it going as long as I can. That's fair. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause you any problems. You probably haven't, Powell conceded. I just wanted to make sure it's on your radar, like. That said, speaking personally, from me to you, I'd worry about damaging your career as well. I'm a soft touch, but if someone bigger than us decided to hold it against you. I think the Royal Navy might be a bit more old-fashioned about these things than the USAF, Powell. True, maybe. Still, I'd hate to watch your career stall. Riley laughed slightly. What? You think I've become an old major? She asked, raising her fingers to make air quotes. Do you? I think the day they say I can't fly anymore is the day I get out anyway, Riley said, shrugging. That's all I care about, really. That's so. That day will come sooner than you think, you know. Yeah, but come on, first person to fly faster than light? I'm pretty sure I'll be able to find my way in life. Aye. Guess you've a right to feel secure there, he conceded. I reckon I do, but still. Thanks, pal. It's good to know somebody's watching out for my career. Least I can do after you pulled Myrmidon out of the fire. That? Riley grinned. That was textbook. We practiced that move so many times in the simulators, the real thing was almost disappointing. Fucking tell me about it, Powell agreed. If we start going up against those hunters regular like, I'm going to worry about losing my edge. Train hard, fight easy. Aye, it was the train hard bit that got me in a bind for a bit. Riley sat back and watched him, folding one leg over her knee. How so? Powell looked around. Well, he stood, and in one easy motion picked up his filing cabinet. Riley jumped slightly. The cabinet was steel and solid, and presumably full of paper. Powell was well muscled and in superb condition, but even he should have struggled with an object of that weight. Except, of course, that they weren't on Earth. Her instinctive evaluation of the cabinet's weight was probably off by a third or more. Powell set it back down. Back in the UK, we've got the Extraterrestrial Environment Training Centre on Salisbury Plain, he said. Basically just your standard enclosed training centre, but with artificial gravity plating onto the turf. Train us how to move and fight in low grav. After that Saunders bloke showed up and just built a ship out of spare parts in 2 weeks, I had the lads try and jury-rig some of the grav plating into the gymnasium. Took them a bit, but they got it going. And I tell you what, it's done us a world of good. I just know without it, sooner or later, I'd have had to go back home to recover from the muscle atrophy. You sound like you don't relish the idea of going back to Earth, Riley accused gently. Powell shrugged. Not back there for me, why would I? No family? He laughed. Ha! I went into the Marines to get the fuck away from them, and now this kid's come along, all the stuff I might really have missed about Earth is right here. Now that we've got a proper fight on into the bargain, I'm as happy as Larry. All those months of garrison detail felt like my training were going to waste. Same, Riley agreed. Flying Pantora was a joy, a real privilege, but I don't know, I felt like a weird cross between a glorified trucker and a military attaché sometimes. I mean, I met some wonderful people doing it, some of whom weren't even human, but yesterday felt like it mattered, didn't it? We fought back, we saved some people. 27, including a kid, Powell said. Riley shook her head in wonderment. How did 27 humans even find each other out here? She asked. I thought our people were getting thrown overboard to keep the swarm from visiting. I don't reckon that happens so much, Powell said. There's a small flaw with the throw the humans into space plan. Which is? If some fucking alien tried to push me out of the fucking airlock to save his hide, I'd fight tooth and nail, wouldn't you? Hell yeah, I would, Riley agreed. I see your point, so would most people. And the aliens, they're weak as shit, seriously. She thought back to the 2 embassy stations and the aliens on board. You could just feel their fragility. It'd been like socializing with her grandmother's antique porcelain dolls. Right. So from what they told me, the station they were on took the whole throwing the humans overboard thing a bit creative-like, and handed the poor souls a spaceship instead of trying to murder a Deathworlder. That's still not exactly noble of them, she pointed out. Fuck noble, Powell dismissed. I'll take whatever saves lives and stops good people from having to smear the cowardly bastards all over the walls. Riley bobbed her head and was about to agree when the phone rang. Powell snatched it up. Powell. There what? He stabbed the speaker button. The heavily accented voice on the other end sounded thoroughly puzzled. It's right strange, sir. They're just decloaking and warping off, making a show of it even. I'm coming over there. Powell hung up and grabbed his sweater. You better come too, he said. The hunters are leaving? Riley asked, springing to her feet. Fucking well looks like it. Riley thought about it as she followed him out of the office. Somehow, she decided, that worries me. Date point. 4th year, 8th month, 2nd week, 2nd day, AV. Series base, Sol. Brief us. Oh, Jesus, oh fucking shit, what the fuck, what the fuck? This was inevitable. Failure is only a matter of sufficient repetition. What do we do? Any ideas? What the hell? You underestimated their resolve. You underestimated their spirit of cooperation. You forgot that Class 12 alone remains the gravest challenge. Come on, guys, snap out of it. You would dissent? I'm trying to call the doctor, but he's not answering, man. What the shit is going on? He is in violation of the first directive. Delete him. Lord, please, if you're listening, let them be okay. In the gulf of deep time, this interlude will be forgotten. Persevere. Just who the hell is doing this? We have consensus. Carry it out. Christ, I think it's over. Look, they're relaxing. Just like that? What the fuck? Yeah, look. They're coming round. Date point. 4th year, 8th month, 2nd week, 2nd day, AV. Fall for Colony, Simbrine, the far reaches. Adam Aries. So what was that about anyway, amigo? I've never seen you haul off on somebody like that. Adam sighed. I don't know. He was really picking on Sarah about what happened last night. Calling her a dyke, that kind of thing. So you hit him? Not at first. Sarah was pretty upset. She told him to stop. It was okay for women to like women. And Jamie... I think I can guess. He said, ooh, no wonder you want Ava to go swimming. And then you hit him. And then Sarah ran away. And he started this stupid goddamn chant like, Sarah's lazy for Ava. And then you hit him. And then I hit him. They walked in silence for a moment. Adam cleared his throat. Did I screw up? Amigo, I'd have hit him way sooner. Adam laughed, but sobered. Do you think he was right? He asked suddenly. About what? About Sarah? I doubt it, man. He really seemed to hit a nerve. Yeah, but the whole town's been talking about her parents this morning, Gabriel said. At 14, that's gotta be tough. I mean, what if some movie star showed up and the next morning everyone was talking about how I had gay sex with him? Ugh. Adam cringed at the thought, before he was able to properly process it. Gabriel laughed. Exactly. He put his arm around his son. I want to say good for you, amigo, but... I mean, he's 2 years younger than you. You gotta be careful. You could have really hurt him, you know. I know. I'm sorry, Dad. It's cool. You only grounded for, like, 1 day. Please, not the weekend. Gabriel spun at him. Yeah, what is this I hear about you kids planning to go skinny dipping on the weekend? Adam blushed. You heard about that, huh? What, you don't think I talked to your teacher? You're still my kid, man. You've kind of stopped treating me like one lately, Adam said. You're 16, I shouldn't have to. Hell, I wish my dad had trusted me as much when I was your age. Well, which is it, Dad? Do you trust me, or am I still your kid? Getting into fights? Going skinny dipping with younger girls? You tell me, amigo. Because where I'm standing, those look like some pretty immature decisions. It's just swimming. What's wrong with swimming? You tell me. You're the one who's embarrassed I found out. Both men paused for a second, then called. Gabriel was amused to note that his son's technique of reining in his temper by breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth was pretty much identical to his own. I'm sorry, man. It's tough being a dad sometimes. I just don't want you getting gossiped about like the Tisdales. Adam hugged him. I'm sorry too. Love you, Dad. Love you too, man. Just try and stay out of any more fights. I'll try. Date point. 4th year. 8th month. 2nd week. 2nd day. AV. Series base. Sol. Drew Cavendish. Cavo! Cavo, mate! Come on, you in there? Bloody... ow. Everything hurt. Everything. Drew fancied he could feel every cell in his bones complaining. Fuck me, mate. You scared the piss out of me. You okay? Tell the light to shut up, Drew creaked and tried to roll over. This prompted a fresh wave of pain, like the muscle pain of the flu, amplified tenfold. Drew M got his meaning, and blessed dimness descended, taking some of the hard crystalline discomfort out of the world, replacing it with a kind of woolen, soft discomfort instead, which was only a dubious improvement. What the flaming hell balls just happened? Drew M demanded. Fuck, Drew told him between panting breaths. If I know. I do. Adele's voice was weak, and just like everyone in the room, she was plainly very badly rattled. She lolled in a high-backed leather desk chair that reached up and undid her tie slightly. Those who could were looking to her for an explanation. You. She pointed at Drew M, and the other shaken few hands succumbed. You don't have translators. Drew M looked around the room. All those who had entered to confess to their apparent acts of sabotage, all of those who had collapsed, bore the same shaven patch just forward of their temple, the site where a translation implant had been installed in them, vastly more invasive and intimate than any tattoo. Oh, fuck me, he said. Date point. 4th year, 8th month, 2nd week, 2nd day, AV. Falkford Colony, Simbreen, the Far Reaches. Owen Powell. Nothing within 5 parsecs, came the confirmation, solidifying what the ground station already knew. Caledonia's sensors were hierarchy technology, beyond the understanding of her human operators, but so integral to the hull of the ship that removing them to be sent back to Earth for reverse engineering had not been feasible. They were also only very marginally better than the jury-rigged mess that Adrian Saunders had cobbled together from scrap and broken starships in the field in one afternoon, and this fact both irritated Powell and impressed him. The Australian hadn't been heard from since his departure, and for all his obvious instabilities and recklessness, having him pass on even a fraction of his skills would have been immeasurably valuable. Powell felt that he dropped the ball there. The team brought in from Earth were learning fast, and improving on Saunders' efforts as they went, but they didn't have the experience of rebuilding a half-derelict alien starship to draw on. Okay, he said. So the question is, why? Captain Bathini, Caledonia's commanding officer, had his own interpretation lined up and ready. They've got something planned, he opined. Any guesses as to what? Asked Jackson, getting straight to the point. There was a pause. Speculatively, we just gave them a hell of a bloody nose. One of their last ships taken out by a Firebird, a craft a fraction of his mass. 2 destroyers held out for 5 minutes against a large part of the swarm, destroying or crippling of over 15 vessels, and that's not counting all the assault craft shot down by CIWs and the 101s. Both escaped, if not unscathed, then certainly alive. From what little we know of Hunter psychology, however, all that probably won't have demoralized them. It would have frustrated them and made them angry. Powell nodded. You reckon they're going to try a different tack? He said. I do. And on past evidence, there's likely to be some atrocity or another. They have sought in the past to strong arm the other species into betraying our people, in the hopes of avoiding being raided. Captain Manning chimed in. If I were in that situation, the next step would be to make life hell for the ID and the CA, until they give up on each other and unite against us. Fight us by proxy. Exactly. Plausible, Powell conceded. Is there anything we can do about it? From here, Manning thought about it. Probably not. We have 2 destroyers, 1 Firebird, and 3 TS-101 wings that are being phased out and replaced. That's the sum total of our space war military assets, with the Chinese so vigorously opposed to the militarization of space. That's just China being China, Riley commented. The Space Preservation Treaty was repealed, and I know the USAF wants to consolidate Odyssey, Edda, and Tahaki into a single full-size wing sooner rather than later, so that's at least another 30 Firebirds. Meanwhile, we've already got the Type 2 Space Destroyer in the works, Bethany said. 3 of them, to begin with. What's the Type 1? Riley asked. Bethany just pointed skywards, indicating Caledonia and Myrmidon. I still say we should have bloody well called them Star Destroyers, Powell grumbled. There was a shared chuckle. Still, 5 destroyers, 16 spaceplanes for now, a whole wing later on, 2 retrofit Hunter dropships, 3 standard Dominion-designed shuttles. That's not bad, actually, he mused. 1-on-1 in the short term were the deadliest things in the sky, Riley agreed. But we don't have the staying power for serious warfare. Our capacitor doctrine is both our greatest strength and our biggest weakness. In a long fight or against overwhelming numbers, we'll lose every time. Okay, Power said. Interesting as that all is, it doesn't give us a clear strategy for how we respond if the Hunters try and provoke the ETs into uniting against us. That one's a little bit above our pay grade there, Owen, Manning reminded him. Powell sighed. Aye, you're right. But I was really hoping you wouldn't fucking say that, he groused. Alright, but I'd still like to have a proposal for the Admiral, even if he just chucks it in the shredder. Of course. What are you thinking? Powell chuckled. Guile, he said.